Hello everyone, we are the 10th of August, our delegate all meeting open to all members. So give the mic to Gabriel that will share the agenda. Thank you.
All right, Patrick's done a very good job of this agenda. There's a lot of detail on here, so let's jump straight into it. Tech Dev, Dwayne, you're listed there as the lead. Do you want to help take us through this section?
Yeah, sounds great. Looking forward to a couple of proposals coming in. But a few things that we did talk about is current contractors and how that should roll out in the future, how we decide should they be invited to our tech meetings for updates. And one of the action items is to build a sort of follow-up and kind of something that we can follow to see where they are on this kind of a status board. One is for all the groups. One tech opportunity is password management. So we're going to bring that some solutions to the next meeting. And then a proposal that's it's going to be I'm looking forward to is maybe a proposal to use some of the current tools that we're using in other governance circles, like the fractal tools, as maybe a possibility of utilizing that going forward, maybe in the next term, as an option. So sort of kind of a win reward, SWOT analysis of going forward with spaghetti code and the costs associated with it, versus what other options do we have to run elections and to run our governance for Eden. I mentioned the development map, kind of the status changes. It's another action item.
Yeah, I just want to invite Luca to jump here about the Upvotbot status.
Hi everyone. Yeah, we are closing in on finishing the bot updates. So basically what we added in the last week was the voting function. So what you will be able to do now during the election, you will be able to click on the bot, and you will be able to call the function to vote. It will ask you who you want to vote for. You will pick one of the candidates. And when you pick the candidate, it will create the button for you, which when you click, it will pre-fill everything on the blocks. So then you just sign it and that's it, with the right account, and that's it. So that is one of the functions that was added and tested and all that. And we also finished with removing the GIF SBT dependency. We had a dependency of GIF SBT action on the contract. So we move it to elect vote from diffuse history. So we see who voted and then just pull from that from history. And now also, whenever people will be basically purged from the Telegram group, they will be purged based on that data. So yeah, we probably need like another day to like really finish it. We were adding a little bit of documentation and all that, so it's well rounded up. And yeah, I think that's it from my side.
So perfect. So that's mean now the changes are made. I have the document map, D map, because we have track all your change in the release note. Indeed, I have those notes, and that will be easy to forward to Giant, New Legend, to update the Gitbook about this new function, vote from the bot, and document the things into the Gitbook. That will be perfect. So thank you, Luca, for all that. Mo, you have your hand raised.
Thank you, Patrick.
Yeah, just a quick question to Luca. Given all of the functionalities that the Upvotbot now has, the question begins to be, what won't Upvotbot be able to do? What do we still need the Eden need an OS UI for? Maybe claiming the funds?
Yeah, basically the funds, you cannot claim funds via the bot. I guess you can vote. Let me see. You don't see status, right? So you don't see if there is already so if there's already consensus. You don't have like a nice visual representation. It can be done, but it's not, and probably shouldn't. So that's one big one. Let me see. Yeah, I mean it's mainly in visualization. So you know, seeing how everything progresses, we don't have like a tree, a nice tree, and all that. So, but this is more like compared to the portal itself, so UI part, right? On the contract itself, it's basically fully needed because you know we are pulling everything from the contract. So even the actions that we're pulling right now, they are all being called on the contract. So we are one-sided in this respect. We only read from the contract to present you, and yeah, you can basically you can work without UI, but you cannot work without the contract. If that makes sense.
So it's still a companion, basically.
Yes.
Yeah, I discussed with Luca. There are certainly other functions to add to the bot, but for the sake of the funding and what we are trying to achieve during this term and set some priorities, what he has already made now is what is really needed. And if there are other things, maybe with the reputation system or to help the reputation system, those kind of things, we can always discuss. But we were discussing that a lot of things can be made without the bot. For example, to know who is into a room, we don't need the bot to know that. We can just, at the end of a Zoom call, 3 minutes before, use an action of a smart contract and say, I was there. And you sign with Anchor and you prove that you are yourself, and that's okay. You don't need the bot for that. So I think what has made Luca is what is really needed now. So yeah,
Maybe just one comment. Yeah, basically the functionality that I requested for this, we basically focused on just stabilizing everything, making sure that it can just run. Because currently the issues we kind of needed to start things by hand and so on. Also, we had an issue with like so this SBT give SBT action is not called anymore, so that broke a couple of things in our bot. So it was mostly like, how do we stabilize, how do we make sure that it can run now for a couple of seasons without any issues. So there were not major additions. We added this vote just because it was kind of easy and it felt right to do it. Yeah, because the issue previously was the bot was also giving you like a button to vote, but it only gave you the button like a couple of minutes before the end. And you know, when people were already fully in panic if the portal didn't work.
Yeah.
So right now you will be able to call it from the start. You just call the action vote, and you can do it from the start if there's something wrong with the
UI.
portal. You don't need to wait, and it will basically make the whole process better if there are issues.
No more stress during the election.
Yes.
Voila, that's that. Mo, you want to address maybe the pool of developers to build on Idononios and support startups for the incubator?
Yeah, that's generally just to say that an intended outcome of having the tech dev circle is for it to also be of service and support to the startups that are coming through the incubator, and use it as a pool of developers for startups that may not have the talent that they require to pull off what they're looking for, and be able to source that talent from our tech dev circle, have consultants available, and things of that nature. So just to encourage everyone to also, all the developers out there, that it might be of interest to them to also be attentive to the tech dev circle and be participate in there.
Yeah, so this I've just shared, this was inside Hypha. We tried to model diagrammatically the flow of the election process, so you guys can check this out. And it would be good if anyone wants to give feedback, if we've got something wrong from Hypha perspective. And then I did share a very like a 1-minute preview of the UI that is already well in development at Hypha. I haven't been able to arrange that like real-time community demo, and I'm very keen to do that. Maybe that can happen next week. So we can run through that visualization where we can see the groupings, the people in the rounds. It's getting towards being a complete replacement for the current Genesis platform. So that's, to me, that's very exciting. And so, the two developers from Hypha's side are now in a Telegram group with Luca, so they can discuss tech questions and be on the same page. The idea is to repurpose the existing smart contracts that the Genesis platform runs on, potentially at first, but replacing the UI, and then maybe seeing if there's improvements that can be made to the smart contracts themselves as well. So this diagram is, I've just dropped it into today's agenda meeting. If you guys do not see, when you open Notion, our Eden account, if you don't see the delegate meetings page, then let me know in a direct message, and I just need to add you to that specific page, and then you should be able to open up any of these. And in 10th of August, which is today, there it is. Notion works with sidebars, so you can either drag it over to expand it, or you've got this button up here that says open in full page, so you get the full thing. And then here, if you want to look at that closer, you've got a download button. You've also got these 3 dots, and you can do full screen, and then you can kind of zoom in if you want to be able to zoom in and read through that. Yeah, so that's that. I guess that's the summary for Hypha. I'm just waiting for them to be able to do a demo, but really there's not really much holding it back. They're just busy with the current beta launch. And as soon as that beta launch stuff is out of the way, then they're going to complete development of the Eden election process in the platform. All right, so let's, if there's any questions, jump in. Otherwise,
Luca is asking link for that Notion.
Well, so all of this is private because this is working groups. So send me, this is not public documentation. So send me your email address, and then I'll be able to add you to all of the Notion pages.
That's the same remark for everyone that want to be into this Notion. So send just your email to Gabriel, private message in Telegram, and he will give you the access rights. Yeah.
Mo, your hand's up, and you've got the next line item here, pool of developers. Yeah, quick question for you on Hypha. By when do you think we'll be able to run our first election on Hypha?
Well, slightly optimistically, we've got what? We've got about a month and a half. Being a bit optimistic, I would hope that we could actually run the next election.
I think, yeah.
And that just depends on how messy the actual smart contracts are. If the Hypha developers have a hard time juggling that stuff, but the front end design is essentially done. So it just needs to be connected with smart contracts.
Yeah.
And so we're going to have to see. It may well be this upcoming election. If not, then of course by the next election.
Luca, you have some update about your discussion with the developer on the side of the development? If Luca is still
well, yeah, I am. Well, we didn't. I mean, we just discussed the options. So I presented them the options that they can use either the current contract or they can rebuild it like just take the logic out and just rebuild it. And I think this is where the discussion for now stopped. So
yeah, so that's what will resume once they've cleared out a few of the backlog beta launch items, and that was expected this week. So now I'm expecting it for next week, and then the back-end developers will start to go through in detail the existing Eden smart contracts and probably come back to you, Luca, with questions or ideas or something to discuss.
Could we say that we'll be able to use the other resources available on Hypha though before the next election? If we wanted
Yes. Yeah, we can move over. That's exactly what they're trying to launch at the moment, is just the actual general functionality of the platform. So create a DAO, add members, verify them, get badges, like we could represent ourselves as delegates and chief delegates on there. And that all of that functionality is imminent. It might be a week or two until all of that becomes available. And I've confirmed that because of the ENF grant, Eden will be able to have like all of our members on the Eden platform and not have to pay the subscription fee either. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, not importing election results. It's literally running the election, having it timed, having the groups recognized, pulling it off chain, just like the current Genesis platform does. So replacing the functionality of the Genesis platform to the extent that is covered by the grant as much as possible, not just being an import of results after the election.
Basically, yeah, we're working on moving now past the SPT issuance for the elections to actually issuing participation SPTs or NTTs for working group participation. So depending on the working group that you're participating in, you can receive a badge or a NTT trait that'll add up to your score for that. And yeah, just general NTT issuance, which will also we'll try to automate that through the UI that is also being built out. We are now moving into the actual development phases of that with Adam and the Detroit Ledger team.
Yeah, so I was evaluating password management solution. I was thinking first that will be possible to do that on the EOS mainnet because we are on chain, and that was the goal, to be on chain and all. But there are some trade-off to make because we are on the EOS mainnet, is a public and permissionless blockchain, and also if we are encrypting the password, that doesn't help really, because that's permissionless and that's public. So I was moving again to a Web2 solution that is into the Swiss Alps. I have made some tests this week, and I have found a good solution that is into the Swiss Alps, into a cloud, very secure, and that's used by a lot of customers around the world, not only in Switzerland. They are using this solution. And we can classify our assets nicely into a web interface that's work also on iPad, iPhone, and Android. And we can share the password of the portal to go on this password management solution. We can change when we change of term and we do the handover to new CD, we can change that easily. We can change also the password of every asset easily, and that's exportable to KeePass. So if you have KeePass on your computer, you can export from the cloud password management solution all the password, all the assets on KeePass. So that's very flexible and two-factor authentication, and we don't joke when we are into the password world. That's very important to have something very secure. So that's Web 2. And then about Eden on EOS DAO, I was making some, I was meeting Liam this week and Veronica, and we were going through the Notion, comms and media that is very well structured. And we were already making some skeleton at what we have to address on this Friday when we meet us at 15 UTC, and we were already discussing a little bit about the identity, logo and color, if we want to be a little bit corporate with what is EOS, because we are hidden on EOS. And now I give the mic to Mo for the YouTube, the Twitter, the website, the LinkedIn, because it's all about credential. So I was discussing of that with Mo, so I was meeting Mo. So maybe Mo, you want to address this point? Yeah.
We solicited the YouTube, the Twitter handles, the websites, everything from the current owners. And the feedback that we've received is that it's unlikely that we'll have any of those back. We're still waiting for the response from one of the website owners, even on eos.org. And depending on what they say, we may have to create a new website. So that's the likelihood of that is a 50-50 at this point. We probably even should, just to not waste time. So yeah, that's where we're at in that regard. LinkedIn is moving forward. Gabriel is mostly taking that on and is continuing to develop that. So encourage everyone to get on your LinkedIn and add yourself and do all of the LinkedIn stuff you should do.
Yeah.
We do have the Eden on EOS Chief Delegate Twitter handle, so that's in our possession. What we are now missing is the creation of an Eden on EOS general Twitter. I don't even know if that's really necessary or if we just want to continue tweeting from the Chief Delegate. That's a question that we might want to ask. Mel is asking, what domains will we be using if we build new? Anyone have any ideas?
No ideas yet, but I am just thinking that a whole branding exercise like brand design might be very good for us to help reposition in the minds of our stakeholders, which are the block producers and maybe the ENF, this whole new public perception of what Eden is all about. So we definitely need to put our heads together. We got Liam on the call today, and Patrick, and some of the rest of us with brand or marketing experience. We should probably do a big brainstorm on all of that stuff.
Yeah, on this matter, I was discussing with Liam into a 40-minute session this week, and we envision to do other session, but we were discussing about identifying the customer personas and KPIs. That's very important to identify for the external with who we want to target, content strategy, and public relations strategy. So we have already built a skeleton into this page. Now it's about to fill the hole. And for the internal, because there is also the internal communication, as you know, the comms and media will implement the moderation policy that the governance group has asked us. So Veronica has accepted to be moderator in Telegram, and CIC has also accepted. So we have 2 moderators for the Telegram. That's the news here. And for the community channels now, we have this option to make no change. Option 2, Eden on EOS standalone channel becomes an open discussion, Eden discussion channel, or the option 3. So we have think about to, just after this call, to do a poll into the bylaw working group, correct, Mo? Into the bylaw working group, do a poll and remind us option 1, 2, 3, and let the people give the feedback until next Monday, 14 UTC, where the decision will be made in the bylaw working group based on this poll.
You could put the poll in the general
or
channel.
general, yeah, okay. So let's say maybe into the agenda, we will put this poll into the general, okay. And that is the people have the time to decide, to react to the poll, and we have the feedback. Yeah.
So next Monday, depending on what the outcome is, starting from that date, that's what we will implement as a moderation policy.
Yeah, that's the idea.
I've recently been in a meeting with Palmar. You guys might know his Telegram handle as Palmar. They're having a crypto conference in Mexico, and he was wondering if we would like to sponsor them. So that's maybe something that we want to discuss right now. How you guys would feel about Eden on EOS sponsoring Palmar and his team to go to that conference. It would cost $1,000 is the asking price. That's something to throw out here and discuss, and maybe also we might want to discuss creating some material for dissemination and commercializing his being there, EOS in Mexico. So I don't know if you guys want to give some feedback on that. If anyone has any questions about it, I can speak to a little bit of the numbers. There are 4 days in Tijuana. 3 days of those 4 are a hackathon, and 1 day is a conference. And there's expected to be an attendance. This is the second one they've done, the second conference of this sort in Mexico. And the first one had a 150 to 200 person turnout. So they're expecting probably a little bit more than that, given that this one's the second one and it's been advertised a little bit better. So I'm curious to hear back from everyone on how you guys feel about Eden on EOS sponsoring that event.
Just before to give the mic to Perry, I just want to ask you, Mo, if you can send a link to that, to this information, because in Comms and Media working group in Notion here, we have a section named collaborations, and we have already a proposal of DJ Strikanova that is in contact with Effect Network. They are doing an hackathon and at end of September, and they see Eden on EOS as very interesting judge for this hackathon. There are some bounties, so maybe we can add into the collaboration now what you just stated. So if you can just send the link.
What I also suggested to him was that he put in a proposal. He's not part of Eden, but maybe through one of the members.
Yeah, he's not part of Eden. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but maybe through one of the members that do attend the Eden on EOS Comms and Media Working Group, they could put in a proposal for something like that and take on the responsibility of following up with him and tracking that progress.
Okay, super.
So in that way, maybe we could sponsor something of that sort. I'd be curious to hear back from everyone here right now, or maybe the following days.
Okay.
And it'll definitely be brought up tomorrow in the Comms and Media Working Group, where it will be discussed further.
A good place, yeah. Perry, you have your hand raised. In Comms and Media, we are managing assets, media assets. In other working group, they are also managing assets. And it's clear that we have to evaluate the solution into tech dev also, but I was already doing also into Comms and Media, because that was broken up for the first time there. Mo, you agree on that? And I have made my research. I was proposing already since the beginning to go with Web 2 solution into the Swiss cloud and all this stuff. And then I was trying to find about going maybe on-chain directly, but now I am very convinced that we need something very secure, and a Web 2 solution makes sense. So we will evaluate. That's not, the decision is not taken into Comms and Media. That will be taken in with the lead of the circle tech dev, that is Duane, by the way, that was just elected as a lead this week. So myself, lead from Comms and Media, we will contact also Duane as a lead from Working Group Tech, and we will work in synergy. Mo, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, just simply to point out that it's an interim solution.
Yes.
There's, depending on what outcome or what is suggested from others, the solution could change. Nothing is set in stone. Feel free to suggest whatever solution you were going to suggest, Perry. Just because the meeting ends doesn't mean you can't type it into the Telegram channel or anything else. The conversation, like I always say, continues between meetings, between the weekly meetings. So yeah, feel free to suggest whatever you were going to suggest there. You can suggest it now or in the future.
Yeah, I want to complete on that. Everyone can speak what he want to speak, but at a point, you have also to come with some proposals. So if you want to see something actionable, do a proposal, and that's where we can move on.
Sure. It's still basically the same from last week. We need to get in touch or a response from Edenia in terms of integrating the Spend Explorer into the eden.genesis.org. And yeah, so hopefully we can get a response from them and see what that would take and how we can best leverage and maybe update and continue developing the Spend Explorer, which I think would be a fantastic utility for all the delegates and the working groups and the Eden members in general.
So there is a basic treasury module that will be added on Hypha. It probably doesn't do exactly what we want, but it might be easy to extend it. So I'm keen to see any documentation on that, and I can at least discuss it with Hypha and see how far we might get. There will be, if we're running circles or working groups in Hypha, then there will be treasury balances, and there'll be a certain amount of like payouts will happen with multi-chain wallets, multi-sig wallets. So let's review those options, because if we're not going to be using the Genesis platform for the election, then maybe we don't need to use it for Spend Explorer either.
Interesting.
Yeah. Okay.
So again, the creation of a standardized RFP form and process needs to be created. And largely we discussed responsibilities of working groups and cooperation with other working groups, and how the finance circle fits into the Eden on EOS structure. Governance elections. So we did a series of things that you guys can review. I don't know if you guys want me to go through each one right now, but essentially by the end of it, we progressed past the bylaws, which are now 4.5 pages. And we made a series of additions to those, suggestions to make them more legible and digestible, and easier to find the references to each thing within the other 3 documents. And then we went to the action points, which is basically review the bylaws and add comments if there are any left to be made. The moderator code of conduct and in what document it should be placed. We were asking that question. And the creation of an inter-moderator governance policy. So basically coming to a consensus on how the moderators will come to consensus whenever they have a disagreement. That's the questions that we were asking there. And that's it to be created. Hopefully in the coming week, we'll be past those as well.
Yeah, I will say if you go into the topic bylaws and you see the video of this week with Chris Barnes doing a great job on the bylaw document, reducing to those 4 pages and making the references to the PP, to the DPR and the COC, and making sure that we don't repeat the same things that are into this document, into the bylaws, to avoid some redundancies and maybe contradicting things. So that's very easy for a new member now to say, I agree to the bylaw, I agree to abide to the bylaws, and that will be a more better for the onboarding. We ensure like this that people cannot say that it is not easy. And also the flow charts that Lenny and Mo were doing on term 6 with CIC, those flow charts are integrated into the purpose paper at the begin, for the DPR, the flow chart at the begin, and for the fund distribution also. And if there will be a flow chart for the code of conduct coming, that will be also like this. You see the flow chart, you see the text, there is no contradiction.
In terms of the incubator, we're still developing, we're still building, we're still formulating. So that's still moving forward. We're making progress, and we'll keep you guys updated as that develops.
We've had a couple of good conversations with AJ, Mo, and myself, and then we had the incubator group. this is still hard to figure out. We're still trying to figure out how we're going to get support, including in light of ENF looking to sponsor business development. So we're still working towards that. We've got the draft of a deck, which was straightforward, like the purpose of what we're doing to source commercially viable Web3 projects in support of the EOS ecosystem. And we're going through the simple logic, putting this together. The problem is that the business development for Antelope networks and EOS blockchain adoption has been difficult. And then we're looking at what is the simplified solution that we're looking to present. And we're still trying to look at the best angles of how that might happen. Web2, DAOs, Web3, pre-seed, early stage, incubator, accelerator, venture builder. There's various possibilities. And so that's in discussion. Why now is a good time for this initiative to happen, right? With the L1 chains reaching critical feature set and prime for adoption, the likes of Zilliqa or Cardano, we need EOS and Antelope to be in the game for the coming bull run, the 24 to 25 coming bull run. And then we're talking about the approach. We need some aspects of how we use the Eden election process to put things together. And then we also need to understand how we're going to enable risk management of making investments or contributions into Web3 or new Web3 projects. So there's a couple of funding models. This is called a simple agreement for future tokens. So a project might want to launch tokens, but they're not clear on their tokenomics yet, but we can help get them moving. And part of that might be that we help that project to prepare for the grants that ENF is supposed to make available. And then we help them through those grants to develop their tokenomics, their prototype, their test community for their product. Then ENF might get a bigger grant, and then we take that to market, develop traction in the real world, and then those projects might become investable by the ENV itself as a venture capital investment. So these are again still general ideas that we're discussing in the incubator working group. And so based on whatever model comes out, then we might have an idea on the budget that we can request. So that becomes hopefully the treasury or the invitation for funding from the block producers, the ENF, or whoever else. And that's it. There's just a couple of old diagrams that I had that kind of plot this concept of the ecosystem. So taking things through public goods, funding sources, and then the steps of what a project goes through until it does a public IPO for $1 billion, etc., etc. Mo, over to you.
So we're wrapping up this episode with a nice go Eden on EOS, huh? Okay, so 3, 2, and 1, and 0, and go Eden on EOS.
Go Eden on EOS.
Hallelujah. Bye.
Woo.
Woo.